And then once that is all live, we will get started, which is very exciting. I think you're seeing the correct screen, fingers crossed. Now. Cool. I'm just going to stop for a second, actually. Cool. And then once that is all live, we will get started, which is very exciting. I think you're seeing okay. It's all very technical here, isn't it? Okay, cool. So I think the live stream is working now. It is streaming, and I'm going to reshare my screen. Perfect. Okay, can everyone see the screen now? Nice, cool.
Yes.
Thank you everyone so much for joining today. We're really, really excited. Today's event is Finding the Right Mentor. So we have a series of a couple of talks and a short Q&A session. So today for our headline talk, we have Amina Adewusi, and we have our two lightning talks by Deborah Edebi and Isabel Costa. So the schedule for today is just a couple of welcomes and introductions, and then our headline talk, and then we'll move into our lightning talks, and then later on we'll have our Q&A. So just a bit about Coding Black Females. Coding Black Females is a nonprofit organization. We were founded in 2017, and our primary aim is to provide opportunities for Black female developers to develop themselves, meet familiar faces, network, and receive support and build relationships through regular events, such like today's. We want to inspire each other and empower the next generation to achieve success. So that's for the intro. And Amina, are you okay and ready to go with your talk?
Yes, I am. Okay. Can I go ahead and share my screen?
Yes, please. I will stop sharing mine.
Okay, wonderful. Let me do that now. Great. I'm just going to set up my other screen so that I can see all the chat that's happening. Okay. Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. My name is Amina. I'm really so happy to be here. Coding Black Females is such an inspiring community. I'm so glad that it exists, and it's such an honor to speak at this event tonight. So thank you so much for having me. I am a server-side software engineer. I currently write Scala, which is it's a kind of functional programming language that runs on the JVM, the Java Virtual Machine. So don't worry if you haven't heard of it before. I definitely hadn't a couple of years ago. And at The Guardian, I work on a team that that writes and maintains developer tooling. It's my first job as a software engineer, and I got it as part of The Guardian's digital fellowship program, which I would highly recommend. I know they've just completed their intake for this year, but they'll have another one next year. So do keep an eye out if you're interested in getting your first entry-level job. And also to note, The Guardian is starting a huge hiring round soon. So if you are a software engineer and interested in The Guardian, I'd highly recommend it. So keep an eye out. Okay. So prior to getting my first developer job, I was lucky to receive a lot of support from many, many developers who acted as mentors. This meant that I was able to teach myself how to code whilst working full-time and caring for a baby. I went back through all my messages and counted 60 developers who helped me. Some of those people gave me one code review, answered a few questions over the phone, whilst others paired with me on a weekly basis. When I look back, I feel really lucky. Upon further reflection, however, I have to admit that not one of those 60 people came to me. I haven't received an email saying, "Hey, Amina, I've been searching for you for ages. I'd like to help you. When are you free?" I had to initiate all of those relationships. I had to reach out. I had to ask for help. You can create your own luck on your software engineering journey, and I want to show you how. So first, I have a poll here. I'd really like you to get involved. So I've just launched a poll, and the question is, do you currently have a mentor supporting your engineering or tech career if you're not a software engineer? And please do respond. I'll be watching it as I'm talking. So I wanted to ask the question, what is mentoring? It can be really difficult to define. I see mentorship as a learning relationship, usually between someone with experience in the area the mentee wants to grow into. But there are so many different types of mentoring, and I believe you can create whatever works best for you. Personally, I've used mentors for two things and continue to do so even as a professional software engineer. So those two things are technical help and career advice. So I've had mentors that I've paired with who have given me code reviews or just answered my technical question. I've also had mentors who have looked over my CV and cover letter, who coached me on how to get a job, and importantly, just motivated me when I felt down. It can be really difficult trying to get into tech, so that is really important too. Incidentally, the title of this talk is a misnomer, as you're unlikely to have one mentor who would meet all of your needs. I actually encourage seeking support and advice from many, many people. I'm often surprised by how advice can differ so much from person to person, and I found that speaking to several people makes for a richer experience. So just looking at the poll, oh, loads of you participated, 90%, thank you so much. And it looks like around 75% don't currently have a mentor, and 20 the others do. So that's wonderful because you're in the right place. So that's really interesting to note. So I'll just end that poll. Thank you so much for participating. Oh, I can actually share the results with you so that you guys can see that as well. Okay, I'll stop sharing that now. Okay, so moving on. So seeking mentorship generally means that we have some sort of goal. This is likely to define the kind of mentorship most suitable to us. So getting specific about our goals is really, really helpful. For example, instead of saying, I want to learn how to code, it would be more effective to say, I want to learn this framework, or I want to complete this kind of technical test. Instead of saying, I want to get a job as a software engineer, we could say something like, I want to be a front-end developer in a fintech startup. So getting specific really helps. It helps us consider where best to find ideal mentors, and also helps us craft a clear call to action, which I'll talk about shortly. So interestingly, it's goal setting where I personally tend to go wrong. And I've made this mistake at least twice in the last couple of years. So I want to share this with you so you don't have to make the same mistakes. In 2019, my goal was to learn how to code, or at least I thought it was. So when I approached people for support, I got responses like, have you built this kind of application? Let's build this thing together. And it was only a few months later that I realized my goal was actually to get a job as a software engineer, which required a completely different set of actions on my part. So when I started learning about the job application process, I was surprised to realize that the learning I had been doing had not prepared me to pass a technical test, which was often needed before I could even speak to an engineer at a prospective company. So once I realized this, I completely pivoted my learning plan and focused solely on technical tests and was able to pass a job interview soon after. The second time this happened to me, as I clearly didn't learn from the first time, was more recently. So last year, I sought mentoring from one of the most senior engineers at my workplace, and it was going really well. But 6 months into the mentoring relationship, I received feedback from another engineer that my coding wasn't very good. And secondly, I'd also decided to apply for some jobs outside of The Guardian, just to test kind of my ability. And I also failed the technical tests there in the interviews. So once again, I was receiving mentorship, but I wasn't focusing on my learning on the right things. My goals were all wrong. So upon reflection, I would have saved a considerable amount of time if I'd done the following two things. First, I should have spent more time introspecting, asking myself, what do I really want to achieve? What would make me happy? What's most important to me? I think this would have led me to the answer that I want to get a job as a software engineer, or I want to get promoted or get a job offer with a higher salary. The second thing I would have done differently is spend more time researching what's involved in reaching that goal to make sure that indeed I am learning the right things. So in terms of getting a job, that means practicing technical tests. In terms of getting promoted, that means working on your areas for improvement. There's little point focusing your mentor's energy and your own energy on things you're already good at. So I think doing these two things, introspecting and researching, wouldn't have taken long, but they would have saved me months of time. So what I've learned is that the answers we get from our mentors are only as good as the questions we ask. Asking the right question can save us time, money, and a lot of energy. Examining our goal may help us seek the most appropriate mentorship advice for us. So in this next part of the talk, we're going to look very, very practically at how you're going to find these mentors. I have another poll, which I will launch now. So you all got involved so well last time around, so if I could ask you to do the same again. So the question this time is, which online platform do you feel most comfortable using to initiate contact with a potential mentor? As you're answering that, I'll just continue introducing this next section. So let's imagine that we've got our potential goal. How do we initiate contact with a mentor? I want to run through some of the different online platforms that we can consider. I'll note why each platform is particularly good to use and how I think we can use it. So thank you so much to everyone who's participated on the poll. At least over 80% of you have, nearly 90%. So just to let you know how things are going. So at the moment it's 65% LinkedIn. So it seems like most people feel comfortable with LinkedIn, and then around 25% have chosen Slack, and very few Twitter and GitHub, which is great. This is wonderful because, we'll talk about how to optimize LinkedIn, and we'll also get you familiar with the others as well. I'll share the results. So hopefully that means that you can have a look at them too. So the first platform I want to talk about, and also my favorite, is open source, mostly GitHub. So for those of you who maybe are not familiar with GitHub, GitHub is like, it's a place where we can store all of our projects, you know, our websites, our code. Let's say we have the Coding Black Females website, you know, that will be a repository, which is the same word as a project on GitHub. So that's just to introduce the platform. And, you know, there are lots of public projects on GitHub where, you know, any engineer can, or anyone can just get involved with that project. So, you know, if you're passionate about a certain topic, you can go on GitHub and find a wonderful project and you can contribute to that. It's just mind-blowing. And I love GitHub passionately and software engineering for this reason. So if you have a technical goal that you're seeking help on, this could be a great channel. You might be able to work on a code base that has actual users in a team of developers following a normal development process. This is likely to give us a more realistic experience of what a typical developer would do day to day, rather than completing, you know, a very sanitized side project. The best open source communities, of which there are a few, will give you code reviews. They might have chat rooms like on Slack where you can seek further help and find someone to pair with. It can, of course, take time to find the right community for you. I really recommend GitHub's advanced search feature, where you can search by language and even get really specific and search repos by the number of closed PRs, you know, to see how active they are. Once you find a few projects or repos that you like, you can find the most active contributors and reach out to them to see if they're willing to help you maybe get installed and get started. Of course, being an active contributor can be very time consuming, so they might not be available themselves, but they might know someone who is. I did just this when I was struggling to install a new open source project, and ended up pairing with that person on a weekly basis on that repo. And I hypothesized that a lot of open source contributors will be doing open source work in their free time. Therefore, this makes for a really compelling set of potential mentors who are already using their personal time to code. It might not be such a huge change for them to share their screen and pair with someone instead of just coding alone, which is why I feel it's a great way to find mentorship. If you're uncertain about how to use GitHub, or you're not signed up or anything, then I'm sure we'll be able to find someone in Coding Black Females to help you get started, because it's just amazing. The next one is Slack. And I think this was the second most popular platform when we did the poll amongst you. I'm sure you probably know the Coding Black Females Slack group. These are just wonderful platforms where people can receive code reviews and get answers to technical questions. I find Slack to be great for ring-fence technical questions. You know, where you can kind of send a link to your code on GitHub or something, or maybe share a cover letter and ask for a review of that. You might see a pattern in who's responding to your questions when you post on Slack groups, and you might notice which explanations you understand the best. You could reach out to those people directly and ask additional questions. Thank you so much, Charlene, for posting the CBF Slack link. Ring-fence technical questions, I mean, so I don't think it's good to ask on Slack, oh, I'm struggling with Scala, or maybe I think it's better to ask very targeted questions. So maybe I'm struggling with for comprehension, with writing this for comprehension in my side project. Here's the code. Could I get a code review? You know, that's a very direct question. It's very clear what you're asking for, what we're asking for in that question. They can, the reader can see the code, they can go and give a code review. It's easy. So I hope that answers that really good question. I just wanted to note that when I would DM people on Slack after receiving answers to my questions, sometimes that used to evolve into remote pairing, which was really useful. So I really recommend Slack. LinkedIn. So lots of you were happy messaging people on LinkedIn, which I think is really good. Some developers see LinkedIn as unfashionable, but I think for those of us who are looking for developer jobs, who are early career developers, I think LinkedIn is a really good option. It's so useful when you have no prior experience in the industry and a limited network, because LinkedIn's advanced search feature is so good. You've got 140 characters when you're trying to connect with someone. I would always point out something that I really admire about the person's profile that I'm trying to connect with. Maybe they've done a boot camp, or they've got a blog post that I really liked. The second sentence for me would always be around my own story. So trying to create a compelling story. So for example, you know, I'm a musician teaching myself Ruby, or I just built my first website, you know, in my spare time, something compelling to kind of describe yourself and your journey. And then my final sentence would always be a clear call to action, such as, would you have 10 minutes to speak on the phone about your experience at this company or at this boot camp? I would always give an alternative, such as, would you be happy to answer my questions over email if they don't want to speak on the phone? A clear action helps the reader understand what you're asking for and why they should connect with you. And an option makes it more likely that they can offer this. LinkedIn was really effective when I first started researching whether I wanted to become a software engineer. I must have messaged like 30 people who did a boot camp. I didn't end up doing a boot camp, but I was thinking about it and seeing if it could be a good option for me. And I just messaged these people with the model that I'm sharing, that I've just shared with you. And I would get responses within minutes. And I had so many telephone calls with kind software engineers, really willing to spend their time. So it really does work. People are so willing to help. So this is a great platform to use. The final one I want to talk about is Twitter. Not many of you are comfortable, put Twitter as your first option, but Twitter is so fantastic for getting to know the software engineering industry. You can research popular influencers and hashtags and gain a real understanding of current issues, which is another topic. I actually would make, it sounds a bit extreme, but I would make lists of, and I still have them today, like lists of developers that I thought were really good to follow, lists of different communities or hashtags, and I would, you know, follow them. I would tag those people when I wanted to like tweet something and get the message out. So it's really useful. We've got some super inspiring developers on Twitter who actually use their popularity to help others. You know, some of them give their time, they spend time pairing, or they tweet about job opportunities. So it's really worthwhile following these people on Twitter. I've used Twitter effectively to kind of get help with submitting conference talks. So sometimes if there's a conference that I wanted to speak at, which I did before I got my first software engineering job, I spoke at 3 conferences before I got my first software engineering job. So please don't think that you need to wait until you're an engineer. You really don't. And I always found people on Twitter willing to help. So we've spoken about online platforms and initiating relationships with people who might be able to support you. I want to note that when I reflect on my most active mentoring relationships, they all came from different platforms. So it may be worth having a diversified strategy where you don't just focus on one platform. I also noticed that these relationships were created over a period of time. They didn't happen overnight. For me, I got my most active mentors over a period of 6 months or so. I have 10 platform agnostic tips for seeking mentors that I want to whiz through and I want you to keep in your mind as you're kind of searching for your mentor. So first tip is, of course, it's important to respect people's boundaries. It's also vital to stay safe online, especially when reaching out to people that we don't know. Number 2, in terms of communication, it's really helpful to be concise. Do review whatever you write and try and be as concise as possible. Number 3, creating a compelling story, which we touched upon, and understanding your why is advantageous. Why are you learning how to code? Why are you seeking a job as a software engineer? Most of us have a number of demands on our time, so being able to express our why may make our message more attractive to a potential mentor. Tip 4, let's do our research. It's better that we read someone's blog articles before asking a question they've already answered elsewhere. Tip 5, have a clear call to action. You could offer that a mentor responds to your questions via email or over a 10-minute call. Tip 6, I advise implementing a testing phase. So after asking for a defined action, you can assess if this person gave you helpful explanations that made sense. Can you communicate easily with them? Do they keep to the agreed meeting time? By asking for a small action, you can test if this is someone that you would like to continue seeking help from. Tip 7, ask for referrals. If the person you've reached out to can't help you, is there someone else that they could put you in touch with? I cannot emphasize this tip more. Always ask. Even after someone's given you a good piece of advice, and answered your question, ask, is there any, are there a couple more people you could put me in touch with? You'd really be surprised, and you can really expand your network doing that. Tip 8, I think it's important to contact a number of people instead of relying on just one. I said that when I was researching boot camps, I messaged 30 people. That might be extreme, and I don't expect you to do the same at all. But I guess I just want to demonstrate that there are so many people out there willing to help. So many. And if you get a no from one person, learn from the experience and iterate, but don't let that demotivate you from reaching out to others. Tip 9, I rarely expressly ask someone to be my mentor. Instead, I've often found that the relationship emerges organically by both parties committing to meet or speak regularly. Tip 10, my final tip is be prepared. So when having a call or a meetup with a mentor, be prepared with an agenda, take notes. For pairing, I would often describe the task or send the issue I want to cover in advance in order to ask for reading or concepts that I can go over before the pairing session. Likewise, afterwards, I asked for feedback on what I could spend more time learning about or practicing. In all of my mentoring relationships, all of them, the ones I have 4 mentors today, all of them, I keep a Google Doc that we both have access to, and keep the agendas and the actions of all of our meetings. So we've spoken about initiating relationships, but how do you nurture great ones? I want to mention here that I think it's worthwhile thinking about the needs of our mentors. People have different reasons for being mentors, and it's quite interesting to find out why someone's giving you their time. I've never sought paid support. So all of the people the kind of mentorship I'm talking about is voluntary. You can find that out by asking, you know, I'm really inspired by how you give your time to help others. What motivates you to do this? You know, I've always received varying responses to this question. One of my mentors said that he considered teaching as a career, you know, and this is a way for him to you know, enjoy his passion for teaching. And that means that I know he's going to really love taking me through complex technical concepts, you know, and that means that you can meet their needs as well. So it's something that's worth being aware of. I've made a number of mistakes and I just wanted to touch on some of them. So I've overcommitted to actions, you know, that I couldn't complete within the time frame. I haven't requested the easiest technical solutions and I've gone down rabbit holes. Now I prefer to always ask for the easiest technical solution. I've also kept relationships dragging on when really I should have just ended them. So I would suggest graduating active mentors into passive ones. For example, if you had a mentor that was helping you get your first job and then you get your job, you can kind of graduate them. You don't need to necessarily meet with them so regularly. I can see lots of really interesting messages on chat, which is great. Okay, so I have a final poll. Let me just get this out there to you. So the final poll question is, do you ever feel outside your comfort zone when working on coding problems, or, you know, whatever other, if you're not a software engineer, you know, or aspiring software engineer, you know, whatever you work on, you're currently doing. So I don't have much time left, and this is a topic that I'd love to, I want to write a talk on at some point. Basically, I want to touch on how we manage challenges when we're learning new things. And the reason I think this is important is because we're seeking mentorship. We're likely to be going outside of our comfort zone. How do we deal with that, especially with a mentor? Most of you have said that, yes, you do, you know, feel outside of your comfort zone, you know, which makes sense to me. Recently, I've been struggling with maths trauma, which has been triggered by the programming practice I've been doing with my mentor. And it's been really interesting kind of experiencing how to sit with feelings of shame, feelings of failure, feelings of not understanding that stemmed, you know, from childhood. And I think when we go outside of our comfort zone, sometimes this can bring up emotional work that needs to be done. It's something that I'm only touching upon now, but I hope to speak about more in the future. So overall, I believe that there are so many people out there waiting to support you on your engineering journey or tech journey. In this talk, we've discussed assessing your goals and getting specific to define the kind of mentoring you're looking for. There are so many different platforms you can use. You can consider which is best for you or which you feel most comfortable with. There are some generic tips when reaching out to people, doing our research, using storytelling to create rapport, creating a clear call to action and using a testing phase. We looked at nurturing these relationships by considering our mentors' needs, making best use of their time by preparing for meetings and actioning them appropriately afterwards. And finally, we touched on the idea of supporting ourselves when the things we're learning challenge us emotionally. Sometimes learning how to code, trying to become a software engineer, or trying to get into tech can feel really hard. I know because I've been there and I still find it hard today. But I want you to know that there are so many people out there willing to help. Create your own luck. Start initiating new mentoring relationships today. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you so much. That was brilliant. I'm just going to quickly share up my screen again. I did want to know a couple of things. One, that we are doing a Q&A at the end. So please type away your questions and get ready to like ask all of them. We'll have hopefully enough time to go through as many of them as possible. Can everyone see my screen okay as well for the next lightning talk? Perfect. So next we have Isabel Costa with her quick lightning talk. So we've got two, one for Isabel, which is more on the mentor side of things and how her kind of experience with that. So very excited, and off to you, Isabel.
Hello. Amazing talk, Amina. Now I have to follow up on this. So I will share my screen. Sorry, I'm just a little nervous. Sharing my screen. And you're already seeing some things I don't want you to see. Okay, I hope I didn't spoil a lot. I hope you're seeing my screen. I will assume that, yeah. Okay, so, and I'll push the Zoom, yeah, people here. Okay, so as Bola said, I will speak more on the mentor side. And by the way, I'm learning how to deal with both, how to be a better mentor, how to be a better mentee. And this topic is very, very close to heart. So I was so happy to have this chance to talk about this. I have mentored at Black Coder Bootcamp, and I also mentor on occasion. Not always it's an official mentorship relation. Sometimes it can be reviewing someone's CV, reviewing someone's GitHub, talking with some frequency with someone that I've met before, and I'm helping them in a specific topic. But to start, so when I think about mentorship, there's a very strong concept that comes to mind, which is community. And basically, when I think about community, I think about the people that helped me get here, where I am today. Having people around that support you and are happy when you achieve something and give their time to share some knowledge with you. I think this is super important in this industry, in tech, and it's critical for us to enjoy this industry and to stay in this industry. And I have a couple of examples. Not all of them are direct mentorship, but for example, the first time I ever heard about meetups, it was at a pet shop where a colleague shared a meetup that was about to happen during the weekend. And me and him were the only people going. Like I said, oh, sure, let me try. Can I go with you? And we went there. And because of his support, I started to get to know about Meetup. He was also the person who told me, hey, you should create a Twitter and follow people within the industry you're trying to get into, which was a great advice. And he's actually now a great friend of mine. But whenever I remember this, I remember, very dearly how his support helped me get to know special parts of the tech community. I also have other people who helped me throughout my whole journey. I wouldn't be here in the UK without Lisa's, Sasha's, May's, Sarah's. And basically, whenever I think about this, I just want to make the industry better by mentoring. And these people helped me get where I am today, and I'm incredibly thankful for them. And this wouldn't happen if they didn't give their time to mentor me a little and to support me throughout my journey. And if I had to represent this with some imagery, I would show this little gif of women picking up each other and supporting each other. And I feel this is all, it's what community is about. And again, I wouldn't be here if certain people hadn't helped me along the way. So I want to start with the why. I think I already gave some tips on why I mentor, but basically it's because I love sharing knowledge, especially the type of knowledge that took me a long time to get, so that the next person doesn't have to take that time. Also, as I said before, being supported is crucial to stay in this industry. I think it also helps a little bit mitigate imposter syndrome. It also helps leveling up the playing field. Something I feel very strongly about is that not everyone has the same exposure to opportunities and networks. This is just a fact. So by mentoring someone, you're lending a little bit of your privilege and your knowledge to help them get better in their careers, and also giving back to the community. These will always touch on community. So who can you mentor and when? I would say anyone, as long as you have a little bit of extra knowledge than that other person, you can mentor them. So you can mentor as a junior, a senior, a CEO at any point of your career. You can mentor anyone. And also, I want to emphasize, regarding regardless of age. Sometimes people may think that this mentorship relation is associated with, oh, this person is older than me or more experienced. What matters is that you're a little bit more experienced on the topic you're mentoring about, okay? I even have like a mentee who just got into tech and she's almost twice my age. And, I talk often with her and I just love seeing her progress in her career. And now about the where. I will touch more on this, but there's mentorship programs. There's people, in Slack communities, just like Amina said, or on LinkedIn. Sometimes people reach out to help to me, and I gladly say, yes, I want to review your LinkedIn, I want to review your CV, and I want you to have a rockstar GitHub profile. So sometimes it happens like this. And then there's also programs like Black Coder or Google Summer of Code. I was a mentor there. So there's just a lot of opportunities out there. I've also created some channels on Coding Black Female Slack, exactly to help sharing some knowledge on things I think that are not often talked about. So now a little bit on my opinions on being a mentor. Let's start with, make sure you build trust. So can the mentee tell you about sensitive situation, for example, that occurred at work, a toxic environment? Are they comfortable sharing that with you? Also understand the needs of the mentee, sorry. Does the mentee want mentorship on something you can help on or something you cannot help? An example I have, and it's not exactly on this, but it's about the understanding the needs of the mentee. On Black Coder, my mentee, there was a time that she was very good at following the coding journey of the bootcamp. So I would give her little assignments like blog about this, put this into notes, what you learned this week, and tell me about it. However, there would be times that she would have to focus on her personal project. And at that time, no more extra assignments, because at that time, she needed to focus on the project. Also, provide insights on what you know. Remember that what worked for me may not work for you. For example, I could say, oh, it would be really useful if you had a Twitter account and used it actively. But if the person doesn't feel comfortable with that, we'll find other ways. Logistics of mentoring. So how do you want to do this? How often you want to do this? How many people you want to mentor? Do you want to set up a Calendly so that people can set up a call with you? Or do you want to do this just at ad hoc basis? Also be aware of similarities and differences. So, for example, women in tech experience is different than men in tech experience. Navigating the tech industry in America is different than navigating in Europe. These are some things that you could be aware of to also make sure, am I the right person to help in this specific topic? And champion and support them. There's nothing better than having someone there for you, supporting you, and be a little bit of a cheerleader. It's such a confidence boost. It's when I feel the best. There was a time I was in a speaking engagement where I was very, very nervous, and I had someone just sending me messages throughout it like, "You're doing great," or great points. It was so nice. So now about challenges of and perks of being a mentor. So I think I already spoke about this, but trying to figure out if you're a good fit or not. For example, can you really give advice on navigating a toxic environment? Have you ever experienced that and overcome it? Understand your strengths and your weaknesses. For example, I can talk a little bit about public speaking, but I cannot talk about too much about front-end development. I hit the ceiling very fast. I'm more on the back-end side of it. Also, lack of bandwidth. This is so, yeah, it's basically lack of bandwidth. It depends on how many people you're mentoring, you know, and overcommitting can be bad. I try to be careful about my time in the sense that if I mentor too many people, you know, will I be mentoring effectively each one of them? Or will my quality of mentor diminish a little bit? And also, when you know perhaps that you're not a good fit, you may have to redirect your mentee to other opportunities and other mentors. So about the perks, I'm a very shy person sometimes, and networking is not my thing. However, by giving advice and by having mentees, I'm networking effortlessly. And I'm also meeting people, and I'm giving back to the community. And, you know, leveling the playing field, this is such a perk that helps us all, honestly. So opportunities to mentor, I just want to give a shout out to, you know, Black Coder Bootcamp, they have mentorship open, meet a mentor community. Also, Women Who Code London mentorship program just started. There's the link I can share later. And check in with your communities. The most recent mentor I got was because I knew someone from a community, a women in tech community, and I stalked a little bit to see, will this person be okay? Like, you know, do they have the time? Are they interested in mentoring? And to my surprise, she has like a page in her website saying, you know, I mentor people. I like to mentor people. I've mentored 30 people, and I just felt more comfortable talking with her after knowing that. And sorry, I clicked the link by mistake. Yeah, and if I could have an ask in my last minutes of the talk, try to mentor at least one person in tech. And I think, you know, this industry will be better for it, no matter where you are in your journey. That's it. Thank you.
Yay, woo. Thank you so much, Isabel. That was amazing. It's really nice to see it from a mentor's perspective. I think sometimes we forget that. So that was really, really nice. So again, my friendly reminder, please drop in any questions that you have, because yeah, we really want to, like, you know, challenge our speakers a little bit. No, we just want to make sure that we answer as many of your questions as possible. So I'm going to quickly, 1 second, preparing for our next speaker. I hope they are ready to go. I just want to share the beautiful, oh, or not. 1 second, let's see, let's make sure it's sharing properly. Okay, can everyone see Deborah's lovely face there? Lovely. I just wanted to make sure everyone could see your little face before you jump on. Are you ready to go, Deborah, as well?
I'm ready to go.
Nice.
Thanks, Paula.
Okay, so go ahead.
Okay, so hi everyone. My name's Deborah. I'm a junior software engineer at Compare the Market. I'm also a mentee on the Coding Black Females Guardian Mentorship Program, which started early last month. So a little bit about my tech journey. I actually transitioned into tech from healthcare last year during the pandemic. And I would attribute the fact that I was able to move into tech so quickly because of networking, which I got from reaching out to loads of people on LinkedIn and getting mentors. So I'm assuming that a lot of you who are on the call have probably heard that having a mentor in the tech industry is super beneficial, or you're just trying to figure out how to get one. So I'd say the first place to start is actually finding a mentor. So Amina's kind of touched on this. So there are loads of places where you can find one. So Slack, Twitter, LinkedIn. But I'd say that LinkedIn is one of the easier ones just because it is so career focused. So you're more likely to see people talking about their tech journeys, celebrating how they got into it. So I'd say if you're looking for one, LinkedIn is a great place to start. So I'd say actually identifying who you'd want to be as a mentor. I'd say you should cast your net super wide. Don't put all your eggs into one basket and see one person and think that has to be my mentor. I'd say, have a look on your feed, a couple of people that have come up quite a few times and that you're interested in their journey, and reach out. So a good way to actually get someone to be your mentor is by building some sort of rapport. So commenting on their posts, liking their posts, reaching out if they've published a blog, just talking to them about it. And that's a really good way to actually start building some sort of relationship. I'd say after that, you should send a connection request. One thing to bear in mind though, do not send out blind connection requests without any sort of intro, because it just seems like you're just trying to get more people on your LinkedIn. So I'd say send a short intro, introduce yourself, like Amina said, make it basically share your story, but very briefly. And then also ask them about their journey. I think the best way to get someone to open up is to get them to speak about themselves. So never forget to ask them so how did you get into tech? How are you finding it? And stuff like that. There's also a reach out to insert name for certain things on LinkedIn. So if you have a look on their profile, they might say that they're open to getting a coffee or pro bono consulting. I would reach out to those kind of people because they're open and they're willing to speak to people. So as far as the actual connecting, I would say send a short message and then also just let them know that you've been inspired by their journey, and try and get some sort of 15-minute call booked in as quickly as possible. So basically build on that momentum. So don't be in messaging for ages. I'd say as soon as possible, try and get some sort of call, or if they're not really interested in speaking on video or anything, I'd say try and email them and just ask them if you can send them questions once in a while. So if the idea of actually sending someone a LinkedIn request or speaking to someone random and asking them to be your mentor is quite daunting, there are programs in place. So there are mentorship programs. So I'm currently on the Coding Black Females one. There's also Black Valley. I think they open their applications I think 4 times a year. So I'd say keep a lookout for that. So if you haven't heard of them, go and search them on LinkedIn. And Isabel and Bola have also got a list of places where you can find a mentor. So I would say basically these are the perfect places because all the legwork is kind of done for you. You don't actually have to go out and find someone and matchmake yourself. So the application process for actually getting onto a mentorship program is pretty simple. It tends to be just an application. Sometimes you might have an interview, but for the most part, it's just a simple application where they ask you why you want a mentor, what you're looking for. So I'd say this is the perfect place for you to actually get down in writing exactly what you want from a mentor. I think it's very easy to hear, get a mentor, but not actually know exactly what you want. So I would say write it down on the application process and then also copy and paste that somewhere else so that when you do finally get onto a program and you have that first session, you know exactly what you want. So there are so many things you can speak to a mentor about. So I would say one of the main things is motivation. A mentor could be basically like an accountability buddy where you can tell them that these are the things you need to do, and they can kind of be on your tail and just make sure you're doing what you said you would do. A mentor is also really super helpful for support, someone to vent to, someone to relate to, and someone to ask questions just in case you're feeling stuck and you don't know where else to turn. Also, mentors are super helpful because especially if you're starting off and you're very early in your career trying to get into tech, you can also get access to their network. So I mentioned briefly in the beginning that I believe that networking is the reason why I got into my role so quickly. So even if that person can't help you, they may know someone who can help you. So definitely reach out and let your mentor know that you are looking to get a role and they can help you with that. Mentors can also help you with your technical skills. So coding is super difficult, and before you become like a rock star programmer, you have to do a lot of exercises, a lot of projects. So a mentor can help you as far as like helping you work with like Code Wars, HackerRank, Exorcism, just to help you with your problem solving skills. So if that's something you want to work on, definitely bring that up quite early on. Mentors can also help you with coaching, so soft skills if you need help with communication. If you've just landed a role and you need to negotiate your salary, they can give you advice on how to go about that, because that can be quite a daunting experience. And if you have an experience that you do need someone to help you with that. They can also help you with things like assertiveness and confidence. So they can help just like talk to you about certain issues you might be having, but I appreciate that that comes with trust. So like Isabel said, make sure to cast your net wide, speak to loads of people and see how you guys basically vibe and get on. Mentors can also help you with any ongoing projects you have, portfolios, which are super important when you're trying to get into the tech industry. So they can help you, give you advice, give you pointers, and just help you advance in terms of that. So another thing I would talk about when it comes to being a mentee and getting a mentor is being very aware of your expectations. So I think you need to realize you can't expect any one person to fulfill every single one of your requirements. So if a mentor can't do everything for you, that's absolutely fine. That's where the beauty of coding communities come in. So if you're not part of one, I 100% like urge you, join one. It doesn't matter who you join, but you have to be in a place where you're around people who are doing the same kind of thing you're trying to do. So some of them I can name: Coding Black Females, amazing community, females getting into tech, Black females getting into tech. There's so much support, so much love there, so definitely join. There are other communities like STEMettes, Code First Girls, Code Bar, Makers, Women in Tech, Tech Cloud and Associates. Just typing in LinkedIn, Google, coding communities for women. Just put in those keywords and you should be able to find a community that you'll fit in and you'll feel great about being in. The last thing I want to talk about is the importance of feedback. So I feel like as a mentee, it can be very easy to believe that the whole mentor-mentee relationship is just about you, but that is not the case. So a mentor-mentee relationship is supposed to be mutually beneficial. And if it's not, you might find that mentors are the relationships are kind of fizzling out, because as much as you need to gain, a mentor's also doing it for a certain reason. So I think what you should do is never be afraid to give feedback. If anything isn't working at any point, you'll only be doing yourself a disservice if you don't speak up. So as soon as something goes wrong, maybe they're not great with timekeeping, they keep missing sessions, or the teaching style isn't helpful, speak up, because you're only doing yourself if you don't, because your mentor will be none the wiser. So always, always, always speak up. And for anyone who is a mentee or has been a mentee and is thinking of taking that next step, you can take all your experiences and kind of take that into you being a mentor. So never take for granted your experience, reach out to as many people as you can, pick their brains, access their networks, and just make sure you get everything you want to out of it. Lastly, I would say that getting a mentor is amazing. If you didn't think it was useful, networking is super, super important. Having people around, having people to rely on, having people to bounce ideas off. So if you're currently trying to get into the tech industry, please do try and speak to people on Slack, on LinkedIn, on Twitter. Don't be discouraged if people don't reply. That's absolutely fine. Just keep reaching out. So yeah, I think that's it. So thank you.
Thank you, Deborah. That was amazing. And thank you to all our amazing speakers today. I learned a lot. I think from Amina, like having those 10 kind of amazing what you should be doing and thinking about steps were really, really useful. And kind of utilizing each different network and each different online kind of platform in different ways was really, really helpful. Is about understanding what it is from a mentor side, like what should you be looking at, like what are the communities. And I think that the idea of acknowledging that you don't know everything and you come with different experiences was very, very useful. And Deborah, again, amazing to understand from the mentee perspective, and again, like you highlighting communities like Coding Black Females, but it is really, really important. I definitely agree. There's so many communities out there that you'll be able to kind of find one that works for you. And it isn't just one mentor fits all kind of thing. you can find as many. So we already have so many amazing questions, and if anyone wants to actually like verbally tell their question, then please just virtually raise your hand, and I'll just unmute you. All the questions that I have, I don't think I'll necessarily point them to anybody unless, you know, it's written there. So I will just like say it out to all of our lovely speakers, and if anyone wants to kind of jump on it, feel free to unmute yourself and then you can answer. So our first question is from Nicola. And she says that I work in quality and also mentor. Do you think that it's important for anyone learning to code to also consider a mentor working in this area? So in brackets for a holistic view of software engineering. Anyone want to take that one? It's a kind of it's a strong question to start off with. I would.
Yeah, I can say something. So the question was about quality, I think, and whether you know, mentors who are looking to get into engineering should also look at quality. Is that right? Have I understood it correctly?
So from my understanding, it was like, again, Nicola, correct me if I'm wrong. I haven't scrolled down to your question, but oh, there we go. Nicola can ask us herself. She's raised her hand. I'll let you go.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello. Yeah, so it's basically, as I say, I do work in quality, and it's something that comes up quite a lot as people are coming into the industry. Are they getting the full set of skills they need? So rather than just, you know, gaining skills in writing code, are they also being trained or mentored in things around quality? Because it's really important, especially if they're going to work in agile teams. There's a lot of emphasis on developers testing as well. It's not just QA teams anymore. So would you consider that it's an important thing that when they have several mentors, for example, or more than one mentor, that they're not just looking to people who will review code or teach them, you know, things around coding, but that they also maybe reach out to somebody from the quality area and you know, make sure that they've got that kind of skill set behind them as well?
I think this is a really interesting question. I feel like I feel like you make a good point. I feel like you've kind of answered the question. It's a really great point that, you know, to think widely. I'd really like to hear other people's perspectives, because I personally don't work in a department where quality is separate. So actually it's just part and parcel. Writing tests and thinking about quality is part and parcel of our jobs. We don't have anyone else to do that for us. But I'd be really interested to hear from others on this.
I think in terms of being trained in quality when it comes to code, I think that's something that someone who's just entering tech is really going to think about. But I think if you're doing stuff like Code Wars, and like if anyone's done Code Wars, you know the solutions. You can have like a one-line solution which looks great, but it's not good code. So I think having someone to explain that to you is super important. But I think if you don't even think that, okay, I need someone to help me review my code, that is something that's going to completely go over your head until you actually enter a team and they're like, that's not how we do things here. So I think it is super important, but I think it's just a matter of whether you know about it or not, which it just depends on the individual. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I feel like I went off, but I hope that answers your question.
I hope that if you have a good mentor, that they would cover these things with
you.
Definitely.
Yeah, thank you so much. That was a great response, I think. Zada Demola asked a question. I think she's not here at the moment, but could be quite useful for other people as well. So she said, as a year 12 student who's applying to university, which application do you think is the most effective in getting a quick response? So I imagine she means like what kind of, using what platform would be the best, especially, so I'll rephrase the question a little bit. I'll tweak it just a teeny bit to, I think, be a bit more, oh, she's back, lovely. Okay, you go ahead and ask your question.
Hi there. Yeah, so my question was just that I recently just found out that I was really interested in coding and software engineering. And it was just that as like deadlines to apply to uni are approaching and things like that, is what is like the best chance of me getting a response or getting really good feedback? Because like you said, Amina, like it does take time to build a relationship. And unfortunately, I've sort of cut myself short of that time. But any advice on how to, make sure I'm getting the most out of that time?
Just a quick thing. It is true that it's important to create a relationship. For example, the mentorship programs that I mentioned, again, not everyone has the same networks and can reach out to anyone. I'm a very shy person. Before I reach out to anyone, I'm checking for some things. So I would say that you can still apply to programs like this to get someone who, they might not know you, but they will start giving you time to help you out. And that's where Amina's advice on knowing what you need help on really comes in. You might not know the person who's mentoring you, but if you come and you say exactly what you told us, like, I'm applying for uni, I need advice on this, and that. Yeah, so don't think you're limited for the people you already know. That's why I love these programs that, help living stuff. That's my point on it.
I would just also add quickly, I think because you're in a time-sensitive situation, I'd say if you're part of a coding community, they tend to have channels for different things. I know Coding Black Females has one for advice. So you don't necessarily need a mentor. If you just put out a question in a channel, I guarantee you someone will reply. It might not be ASAP, it might not be like instantaneously, but someone will reply. So if your situation is time sensitive, just post what you have to say in some sort of coding community and someone should get back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, definitely great advice. I think, like you said, it might not necessarily be a mentor, but a community is definitely helpful in a kind of a time-sensitive manner, and you might end up developing relationships there that kind of go off to a mentor-mentee relationship. So a question from Sophie. I think, Isabel, you touched on this, but maybe like your one top tip, I would say, for mentors, making sure that the relationship between a mentor and a mentee is worthwhile. Yeah.
So is it from the mentor side?
Yes, yeah.
This depends on the whys of the mentor, right? Just like Amina said, there's people who have different, motivations for it. For me personally, what makes it worthwhile is that I give advice and it works, and I get feedback on it. That the person applied the feedback that I gave, it made sense, it helped the person. It costs nothing for the mentee to say, "Hey, I used these, and thank you so much for the advice you gave me, I don't know, X time ago. It really helped." Because this altruistic thing, we also like to receive this, knowing that things worked out. So that helps, and also helps like when you go to a mentor, you can organize meetings. Imagine you have weekly meetings or whatever frequency, coming with the agenda. Like, I want to talk about this, and that. That's all the things I want to know right now. Perhaps, you don't talk about everything within the meeting, you move it to next meeting. But come prepared. And, if you remember that the person is giving you a little bit of their time, you just have to think, okay, what can I do to, make out the most of these meetings? And ask the mentor. They will be able to tell you, I think.
I think that's great advice. I think often, sometimes a mentee might be like, "Oh, am I taking up too much time out of my mentors?" kind of, but having this kind of like schedule of like, "Oh, these are my goals and this is how I'm kind of working to it," and creating that together, I think is a really, really great idea to make sure both parties feel like it's worthwhile. So yeah, thank you very much on that. Deborah, you did touch on this. and I think, Amina, you did as well. But Lorna's asked, are there any resources that you would recommend for preparing a technical test? Maybe we could just type out a couple of them as well. So yeah, that might be easier.
I'd say doing Code Wars, doing HackerRank, Exorcism. CodeWrite is really great. So if you go to, I think they have their London chapters on Wednesdays, so you have to sign up and you kind of have to rush because they get booked up really quickly. But that's a really good place to just find some like example technical tests online and just try and go through them and actually talk through your thought process. I think sometimes if you're going to be in an interview where they're actually going to watch you doing it, you need to be able to explain yourself. So I'd say, you know, take advantage and actually practice before you jump into it and it's just, oh my gosh, what's going on? So yeah, I think those are some good places, and then I'll write some in the chat as well.
Thank you so much. Yeah, definitely a good bunch. And a shout from Nicola. Nicola said that BCS and AFBE UK, a lot of acronyms there, love it. Also offer mentoring, so if anyone wants to check those places out, you can. Again, if anyone does have a question that they want to say as well, just stick your hand up and definitely be useful. The next question was from Sophie, very more kind of specific to data science. So do we know of any mentoring programs specifically for data science newbies? And the answer is no. We'll can do some Googles and see, but just throwing that out there. Even if anyone in the audience has an answer to that as well, that would be great as well. Oh, nice. We've got a hand raised. Is that for a question? I imagine that might be more of a question, or is it the answer to this one? Let's let people speak to answer that question. There you go.
I don't have an answer to that question. I actually have another question. So if you would like me to wait a bit, if anyone has an answer to that.
No, it seems no one has an answer just yet. If they do, I think they'll plop it in the chat. So go ahead and ask your question.
Hi again. As I recently mentioned, I just sort of got into coding. So I'd started using websites like Code Academy to teach myself because I'm not doing it as an A-level and my school doesn't. I was wondering if there are any other platforms that you would recommend, because there are so many out there. So it's kind of overwhelming to know which one will, you know, be teaching me things that will really help me. So yeah.
I'd say a really good place. Are you learning like front end, back end? What kind of development are you learning about?
Because I'm so new to it, I haven't really found a specific one to learn yet. I'm more looking at learning just a language to begin with, and then seeing sort of where that leads me whilst I explore, you know, the difference between back end and front end and all those sorts of things. Okay, yeah. Like someone said in the chat, free CodeCamp is really good. Okay. So I'd say for everyone, you should learn the fundamentals, HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, because JavaScript is both front end and back end. So I'd say that's a really good place to start. And they have like projects at the end, so you can actually like solidify your knowledge by completing a project. You can actually like spruce it up a bit and maybe even put it into your portfolio. But I'd say free CodeCamp is a really good one, as well as Code First Girls. Yeah, someone said that in the chat as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I personally loved Code Academy. Really liked how easy the interface was. Someone said YouTube is underrated. Totally agree. There are a lot of great like resources out there. It is so true. There's so many resources that it is super overwhelming. But yeah, I think just pick what works for you. Like everyone has different learning styles. So stick with what works for you. People were saying free CodeCamp, and I used it. And then when I got to JavaScript, I was like, I can't do this anymore. I need to find a different platform. So just pick and choose which one works for you and play around with that. Program with Mosh, use that. Yeah, great channel. Definitely recommend as well. I had someone else that kind of asked a really great question about ways a mentee can add value to a mentor. And we did kind of touch on that, but I feel like it'd be quite nice to kind of expand that if possible. So Rachel asked this question, said kind of beyond just feedback for the mentor, is there any other ways that kind of mentees can add value?
Yeah, I can just add to Isabel's answer, which was already amazing. One thing I do try and do is whilst I'm pairing with my mentor, I try and highlight where their explanation has been exceptional, you know, where the analogy they've used has been so helpful in helping me to wrap my mind around a topic. So I try and constantly give like live feedback with my mentor. I'm also quite generous with my compliments. You know, I'll say like, oh, like, that was such a great explanation, or like, how did you think of that analogy? Like, that's just such a great analogy. Or, you know, thank you so much for today. You know, I think it's playing on what Isabel said of I think a lot of mentors are doing it for altruistic reasons, of just wanting to feel like they're making an impact on the world, like they're giving back in the way that so many people have helped them. So also being gracious.
I definitely agree. I think it's easy to just be like, oh my God, this person's amazing. They almost don't even need me to like affirm how amazing they are, but it does go a long way just giving those kind of compliments. And I like where you said like being quite specific with it is really useful for them to like even like develop themselves as a mentor. So definitely love that. Thank you so much, Amina. The next question from Joanna is how to structure messages to a potential mentor. And I think you covered that as well, Amina, but I don't know if maybe we've got like a variety of ways to kind of approach it as well.
I'd say keep it short, like Amina said, keep it really concise. No one wants to read a paragraph, so keep it punchy, like your name, your story. And again, people always open up a lot more when you actually ask them about themselves. So don't go in like, okay, this is what I want to do. Can you help me with this? Ask them about their journey, and then you're more likely to engage them. So keep it short and try and, yeah, ask them about themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I quite like that point. Asking about themselves is really useful because you might think you know all about this person, but what do they actually want to even be a mentor? Like they might not be in a position to do that, and like kind of gauging who they are and what they want is really important. So thank you very much for that one. Next question from Halima is how important is it to talk to loads of people before deciding to move into tech? Is reading and videos enough information to gather to make a kind of decision? Which is a very interesting question. I think people tend to phrase it in a different way. So I quite like how you've done that and how it relates to the mentoring. Yeah, I have thoughts, but I would like the panelists to answer first.
Yeah, can I begin on this one from Halima, because I feel really passionately about this. I feel like one thing I've learned through making mistakes in my life is that before we make an investment, it's always worth spending considerable time doing research to test our hypotheses that investment is worthwhile. So for example, if you're about to change career or about to pay for a boot camp or about to start a lot of self-study, it really is worthwhile putting a few hypotheses together and like really being a scientist and testing those hypotheses. And maybe I sound like a little bit extreme because it's like we're only talking about becoming a software engineer, but I really do think it's worth it. And this was the approach I took. So my hypothesis was, I think I would enjoy the daily job of a software engineer. And I literally asked people on LinkedIn, how can I test this hypothesis? Like, what do you think is the best way for me to test this hypothesis? And that was when I got so many different answers from people. One person would say, get on GitHub today, right now, get on GitHub and start contributing like grammar and spelling changes to repos. And I did that, and that was amazing. Someone else said, go on Code Wars. If you like Code Wars, you'll probably like being an engineer. So I do think it's worth Halima, spending a little bit of time maybe coming up with a hypothesis, and you can ask people, how do you think, as a software engineer, how do you think I can test this hypothesis? And then trying out some of the different things. I'll stop there.
No, that was an amazing answer, honestly, better than I could have even bothered to try and do. I think the only point that I was like, when I was thinking about this, the question was that software engineering is kind of like one puzzle in like the world of tech, and there's so many vast things out there. And you know, for me, like when I was like, oh, I want to go into tech, why not? It was like, oh, front end development. Everyone does front end development, and you know, you go, you do your HTML and CSS and all that good stuff. But there's so much other kind of things out there. So definitely kind of throw your net as wide as possible. And I think that's one great thing with Coding Black Females is kind of the range of events. People talk about different things and like the data science and all this kind of stuff. So there's the ability to like even prove your hypothesis more by like going to like different areas, because there's so much kind of vast things and like so many people doing different things. So yeah, definitely like you said, talk to people and go to events and just see kind of like what people are saying about the industry they're in can be very like indicative of like whether you kind of want to go into that. So that's what I would add to that. And Sophie asked a really great question for kind of the mentoring programs that we're recommending. Are they all kind of UK based? So I do have a next slide that kind of goes into different ones. There are some global programs. So there's Coding Coach, and I'll be sending out an email to everybody as well with all the links. So Coding Coach is one that is worldwide. Also, a lot of CBF members are actually not all from the UK. So you might be able to kind of find somebody that isn't from the UK. Also, you know, there's Zoom and all these great things, so you can like connect with people even if they are based in the UK and you're not. It is possible to still kind of connect with people. So that's why kind of using different organizations and different communities can be a good way to kind of find your mentor if, you know, the normal kind of standard programs don't fit for you. So there's that. And someone also, Nicola Martin said, reach out to me if for the person, I can't remember their name, who was looking for a data science mentor. Nicola works for a data science company and might have people that would like to be a mentor. So reach out to Nicola if that was you. I'm sorry, I've forgotten your name. And I think that might be our final question. Potentially. I think it might be. Thank you so much. It's been really fun scrolling through the chat because I quite like the banter that everyone has. Lorna asks, yeah, does anyone have experience of front-end mentor? Oh, May replied, I have. I like that I'm just kind of reading the chat right now. So, this is great. This is a really, really great community. So yeah, I will do my best to like copy out all the links that have been in this chat and I will link them in the email that goes out. Apologies if I miss anything, but if I do miss anything and if you're on our Slack channel, just kind of ping us in the general and then people can reply to that as well. So yeah, I think that might be all of our questions. If anyone has any last minute question they would like to ask, please feel free to. Might do a little countdown, make things a bit tense and exciting. No, I won't do that. Go for it, Isabel.
Say something.
Yes.
Because I forgot to say during the presentation. Be aware that these mentorship programs, right, they're made of people who volunteer their time. Usually there's more mentees than mentors. I don't know what the ratio is. It's just what it is. So do considering mentoring, even if it's just one person. Because we want mentors, but you know, we have to have mentors to mentor. Yeah, that's just.
No, very, very important point as well. I think it's all about kind of passing it along and paying it forward. So, you know, the experience that you gain will be beneficial. And sometimes you feel like you have to be at this certain level before you can be a mentor, but you can definitely be a mentor at any kind of stage as long as you have the ability to help somebody and just all those qualities that we were kind of talking about, definitely consider. So thank you so much, Isabel, for that. So we have a couple more slides. So these are the kind of mentoring opportunities that I mentioned before. So kind of Coding Black Females, we have our own kind of mentoring program. Black Coder, which is a program associated with Coding Black Females, and Isabel is a mentor there as well. So you get to be with cool people like her. So there's that ability to be a mentor. And if you're on the program, a mentee. There's Black in Data, Meet a Mentor, and Women Who Code. And then lastly, the coding coach that I mentioned that is worldwide. So again, the emails will be going out to everyone and I'll have links there. And yeah, this kind of is like the end, sadly. I was having a lot of fun with the event. We've still got some more opportunities that I will talk about, but I really want to say a massive thank you to our 3 amazing speakers. So a massive thank you to Amina, Deborah and Isabel. Like, all that you've said and all the kind of advice that you've given with the Q&A has been super helpful, at least for me and hopefully for everyone else. So yeah, a massive, massive thank you to you all. It's been really great. So we have a couple of really, really great opportunities. So I think Jess is on the call. Is Jess there?
I am. I'm hiding here. First of all, thank you for letting me hijack the end of your meetup. Really enjoyed the talks and it's such a great community you've built here. I absolutely love it. What I wanted to promote is I run Developer East Midlands, which has a very misleading name because we're a general technology conference. We are free, we run on a Saturday, we try to be as accessible as possible. And right now we've got our call for speakers open. I'm wanting to offer for all the members of CBF the opportunity for myself and a couple of mentees to review any submissions you have for talks. So if you're interested in getting into speaking, please do consider submitting to our conference. It's based in Nottingham. We might be able to help with travel closer to time. It depends on our funding from sponsorship. But I will put a link in for a form. So if you want any reviews done on talk titles, talk descriptions, if you want a quick call to try and figure out if there's a talk you could do, if you've got any great ideas you could be sharing with our audience, then please do use a form, get in touch. We have a lot of support for speakers, from workshops to mentorship. Anything we can do to help you get on your speaking journey, we will try and do. So please attend, please submit your talks. And if you have any questions, I am on Twitter, LinkedIn, and I can occasionally float around in here as well when Bola lets me. So, and yeah, thank you. I've learned a lot from the talks today, so appreciate being allowed to attend.
Thank you so much. I was like struggling to mute myself there. Thank you so much, Jess. Definitely recommend everyone to go through it. I love public speaking. I think it's a great way to like push yourself out of your comfort zone and really challenge yourself. So yeah, please definitely apply for this opportunity. Definitely to our speakers as well. You all look amazing. So it would be lovely to see you on that stage as well. And I have a lot of love for Nottingham. Went to university there, so it's definitely an ace place to be. It's definitely apply. So here comes the fun part where we encourage everyone to please give us feedback. Our amazing speakers, you know, took the time out today, all our volunteers as well. So I really, really do appreciate the feedback that you all give. And I will actually paste it in the chat now. So while I'm talking away, if you can complete it, that would be amazing. Thank you. So yeah, it really, really helps us to improve. And also, you know, you get to claim a special code, which allows you to get free IDE from JetBrains. So please do it. Very, very useful as well for us. A couple more things. We've got a Visible in Tech. So if you would like to get involved, please do. We have amazing Black women who have been featured, some who you may have seen in this call as well, you know, doing amazing things. And it's a really, really great way to kind of get your name out there and inspire other people too. So please head to the link if you would like to get involved. And lastly, we have our Maker Scholarship. So all the amazing people who are looking to do a career change, are looking to kind of dip their feet into tech. This is an amazing, amazing opportunity. So we're offering 6 full scholarships to our members. Normally Makers, I think, charge around £8,000 for the program. It's a 16-week program, and they give you all, just set you up So you get full technical experience, you get support, and you get help to apply for your first job in tech. So really, really great opportunity. And deadline is the 9th of April, which is in a couple of days. So really urge you to start applying. There are a couple of steps. For example, you have to do a technical test. So if you do want to apply, please do it as soon as possible. And if you have any questions, email us or drop us a message in any of our socials, and we'll get to you as soon as possible. And yeah, I think that's everything. So again, thank you so much to everybody that attended, to our amazing speakers. I feel like this was a really, really nice session, and like, yeah, I love that everyone was really, really interactive, asked loads of questions, really, really appreciate it. So thank you so much. And if you do want to get in touch, please do. Our email is there, and you can reach out on our socials, and we will send you emails. Some of you may have already got it. We might have scheduled it quite early, but I will add as many of the links in this chat as possible to it. And again, if there's anything that you're missing, just send us a message in Slack or DM us or wherever it is. So yeah, thank you so much, and have a lovely evening. Oh, I like the invisible clap, yes.
Thank you so much.
Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye, thank you.
Thanks, Bola.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm gonna attempt to like scour through and get all these links. They were just flying about, weren't they? I think there's a way to download the chat. Go.
You can download the chat, Bola.
Yes, found it. Lovely. Perfect. Yeah. Nice. I will add to the emails now.
Thank you and goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.